figured out that we can paint over Skype, we I don't know how to say, we film, we
You record.
we record
Yeah.
the painting every and for example, Daniel starts with the painting, and I copy his lines and use the same color. And after a while, it changes, and I take over and add something different, and he copies my thing.
See. So you swap around. You swap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we did our first big exhibition, our first solo exhibition, we thought about how it would be because we are doing this in our studio, and we know what we do, but we didn't know how to describe it to the people what we do. So I work in social work, and so we thought the only way to learn this is by letting the people do this themselves. So we set up a small swimming pool, only 30 centimeters high, so to cover up the floor, and put some canvases and yes, it's Stoffe.
Some materials of some sort.
Materials in the pool, and brushes on long stroke on long
sticks. Yeah.
So to and the only rule was that more than 2 people has to paint on one piece.
Yeah.
Other rules. And the sticks, because of if you don't paint often, you get quite easily lost in the detail. And if you are away and don't have too much control, you lose. If you lose control, you don't get lost in the detail. And that's why we put the sticks. And because of you can paint in like standing, and don't have to bend over the painting like Baselitz does all the time.
So I saw some pictures of that, the little children's kind of swimming, little paddling pool, and you're offering the audience the opportunity to do some of the paint, sort of simultaneous painting themselves. But I wasn't aware that they had the brushes on very long sticks.
Yeah.
And is that so that's a way of them being able to, I guess, not get each other's way, or do they? Is it a sort of enabling thing that allows people to a bit of space, or?
Totally, yeah.
Okay. That's one point, and it's also bringing the people on one level, because if you're a very good painter, then most of the people don't paint on long sticks, so they don't have a big plus point to the people who don't paint.
I see. So it's rather like painting if you're right-handed or left-handed. It's like painting with the opposite hand to allow everyone a kind of similar kind of, because it's quite difficult to paint on a long stick unless you're unless you're painting, decorating up in the corner of the house or something. Very high up. But I see the idea.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I just gonna, it's useful just to have a little chat today to get some idea of how you work together, and just to sort of get some questions for you. So I don't want to preempt too many questions today, but it's really helpful. So that was really good. I really like this. So the sort of the gallery experience is something that's kind of interesting. I could ask you questions around that. About there's a kind of concept to your work, and then presenting it to the public, that they can actually not only look at the work. It's one thing to look at it, but it's another thing to actually do it themselves and experience it. So it's fully understandable.
That's a huge point. That's a huge point for us. That I mean, we like to sit in our studio and paint, and be for ourselves, but at the same point, it's very important for us to include the people in the process of the like the building of the Ausstellung exhibition.
I should tell you, I do speak a little German. I understand quite a few German words.
Nice.
But I don't speak my forming sentences is not very good. But I did work in Leipzig for some years, so I worked in the art school there. So I do, so I do speak. I know I'm familiar with Ausstellung and words like that, so you don't need to worry too much. If you can't find the word, I might know it. So
that's good to know.
Here we also made another project where we invited friends and other people to paint with us. So the idea was that we make a very intimate session with people that we know or don't know, and we would start bringing them along our hands through this simultaneous painting experience. And in the end, they would get one piece that is made in that process. So it usually takes about 4 hours, because after 4 hours, everybody's really done with the nerves, because it's very intense working if you're in that intimate session. And we kind of show the people how we are working on different materials. Like we start with sketching first to make the people a little bit free and get used to the paint and the strokes, and that they lose their fear of doing something wrong. And in the end, we switch to bigger canvases, and then we that's the small process. So we actually want to bring the people to losing their fear of painting, because in our viewpoint, everybody can paint. It's just a matter of expressing yourself and being happy what you see, or It's a very big thing for us, because we both are self-taught. So
good. And do you think? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the kind of art object and the experience. There's one thing to do a painting or participate in a painting, and there's another thing to sort of to have the outcome, the painting, as it were, as an object, as a kind of artifact. So there's sort of like objects and experiences. I'm wondering where you think the importance might lie for you. In the end result or the process?
It's a very difficult question. I think it's, I don't know, maybe we have different viewpoints, but for me it's both. I mean, the one doesn't exist without the other one. So it's really, it's like a symbiosis. Like we need the thought about the work itself, because otherwise we would just it would just be about ourselves, but we also want it to be about the painting or the work. And this work does only exist because we are working together. So it's really not very easy to say we are more about the process or only about the painting, because that's my point of view. I hope tell that good well in English.
No, so it's very clear, Daniel. Don't worry. Anselm, how about you? Do you have a view on that one?
Yeah. I think the when we two work together, the piece is more important than the process. The process is nice for us. We have like a lot of we can. I mean, we work for like 4 or 5 years together. We know each other. We can rely on each other. But I think for when we let other people in participate in the process, or even all without in the exhibition, I think there the process is more is more important, and the experience is very, very important. But for us, when we only we two paint together, that's at least my hope, the pieces. and that's a really important thing. What kept us going in the beginning, we were like, the beginning wasn't easy. It was really struggling because everybody, like, we're still very young, but then we were younger and we wanted to express ourselves, and that's why we painted in the beginning really, really big, because we both needed very much space, and honestly, we for when I moved out of Stuttgart, we had a little how you call it, a little breakup.
What is it in German?
Because like, yeah, but like the relationship history, the painting history is, everything is coming, is splitting and coming together, and it's the whole thing. If you view the whole thing, the process is more important, but in the end, I hope the picture is more important. That's what I wanted to say. And yeah, after the breakup, we decided that the piece is more important than we are, and that's the only way how we could find an level to talk without we didn't take everything from this point on. We didn't take it too personal. It's a really personal thing. It gets like really intense in some moments, but that was a really important discovery, that the piece is more important for us than we are, as a, like, I don't know how to call it to not sound pathetic. Pathetic. Pathetisch.
Sympathetic. No. I'm not sure.
Word for my sentence.
I've lost myself. Sympathetic to each other. No.
No, I don't know. Mine's pathetisch.
Pathetisch, yeah.
Well, Google Translate says pathetic.
Pathetic.
Yeah. I don't want to say sound pathetic.
It's not simple. It's more complex.
It's more important than we are.
Okay. Yeah.
It's so big.
Yeah.
It's also very, very useful, because in the first time we lived together and worked together. So we had our studio right beside our apartment. So we were actually 24 hours a day with each other, and really like a symbiosis. we went to the same, met with the same people, went to the same parties, went draw together, and we all each had his own room, but it was really very together.
So do you think that when you have the painting, when the painting is finished, when you have a finished artifact, it tells is it a catalyst for a story, for a narrative, for a discursive relationship between the two of you, somehow a conversation? Can we see a conversation in the work afterwards, do you think?
Definitely. There is always it's in the first times we and still today we always call it like a dialogue on the canvas, because we always react to each other. Anselm paints something and I react on it, and it might be that I add something, or I just leave it there, and or I paint over it because I don't like it, or whatever. And the same happens with me. So if he doesn't like anything that I just did, he can paint over it, and that's very okay, because it's for the painting itself. So and it's like in a conversation, because you don't always can agree on the same themes, and in the end, what's on the painting is the perfect middle of us both being comfortable with what we see, and I think that's
that's really interesting. So it's almost like a kind of recording of a conversation, do you think?
Totally, yeah.
And yeah, and we tried like different times. Most of the times we just have the blank canvas and we just paint on it and see what happens. It's like you meet at the park and start talking with no theme or whatever. And in other sessions we have like we once painted Chuck Yeager, who was the first person who flew with the speed of sound.
Yeah.
Then we looked for pictures of him and started painting him together. And this was more about the theme Chuck Yeager. How does he feel, and how do we react on his face, and how the things come together. So we always need like different kinds of we use different kinds of things. Some themes. Sometimes there is no theme, sometimes there is one, and it always needs to be the right time. Talk to each other and say, "Hey, how do you feel today? So, do we need some more input from outside, or
yeah.
Can it just flow?" And yeah.
So these really are like conversations almost between you. The painting is a kind of visual conversation, or the kind of discursive nature of a dialogue between the two of you.
Also, the times we never know how the painting will look in the end, because it's, it's
in the same way that we don't know how our conversation is going to end.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and
do you think your conversations, are they empathetic, or do they sometimes have disagreements? Or
yeah, I think we are both very empathetic persons, so we like it. We are not like
we're very harmonic people.
It's a base, and on this base we have a lot of arguments, but in a way that we respect the feelings of the other person, and try to talk like non-violent, and so we don't do a painting where it's like, it's not about getting above the other person, or trying to I don't know. And sometimes maybe on my side, I have to I have to say, sometimes it's like there is a very very detailed thing, and then you don't have a good day, and you think and do a stroke, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But in the most time, I don't know if it's how about you, Daniel? But in the most day, it's like yeah, we try to respect the feelings, and the like in a conversation. If you talk about it can get really heating up, but we try to the conversation should be on a empathetic level. Yeah.
And when you're doing a painting together, are you conscious that you want this finished result to relay the conversation? Is that important for you?
I don't understand.
Is the finished painting, is it a recording of your conversation, do you think, or is it the end point of the conversation, or is it the entire conversation, or is it just where it ends up?
Well, it's both, I think, because in some parts you can see the layers which build on each that sometimes you see that something got crossed out or painted over it, and sometimes you don't. So the painting itself is probably the end result of the conversation. But if you look closer, you can see the story of the conversation, maybe. And so it's the longer you take time with the painting, the longer you will maybe see what happened there, and that why is there like this face, and why is it crossed out, or I don't know, something doesn't fit right. And So it's really both. I think it's really depends on the viewpoint, how you want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's a really hard point for us to say when a painting is finished. Even if it's finished, it's yeah. We all we a lot of times we discuss should we paint about should we paint it again, should we change something. So it's never it's not it's always optional to repaint the painting if it's not if it's in our how do you call it if it's in our reach, if we can reach it, we might paint it again.
Yeah. So do you find yourself having repeating conversations? Do you find yourself
Totally.
picking up the conversation from you've had before? Yeah.
And it's like a conversation you that you had, and where you want to change an argument or say I last year I said like but now I'm thinking about it and I want to like a little bit deeper, get a little bit yeah.
So sometimes when we paint, then one of us has a bad feeling about a painting, and then the other one would now say, like in the earlier times, we would have probably done that differently. But the other person would say, okay, just we leave it for now, and let's look at it maybe in 2 weeks again. And sometimes it's like then you look again on the picture or the painting, and you say, oh wow, it's not that bad as I thought it would be, because it's also like our painting process is a lot about emotions and about the present actually, and if you step out of it and take your time and then look at the painting again, then the emotion has somehow I don't know, it's not gone, but it's has changed a little bit. So, and then you find yourself finding the piece that you found earlier bad, fortunately good again. It's,
And how do you decide on a conversation, a theme you might discuss, or how do you come in? How do you prepare yourself for your paintings?
The first when we meet for like a week, the first night we drink. Get on the same vibe. We like to drink. We drink and talk about, I don't know, what goes in our mind and in our life. We live in each we talk a lot, but it's different when you're on the same place. You talk different in a, I don't know, in on yeah. And that's really important. How to prepare a theme, I would say. The last thing we did is we take photos from friends. We didn't ask them, but we take them from, I don't know, Instagram, or we made them ourselves, and we have both the image, and then we draw.
Yeah.
Drawing together, like with the Skype painting technique. So photos is a thing, yeah, and like yeah. Daniel?
Yeah, I think it's like what you said. It's like the first thing is always to get on the same page, because in the first instance we are friends, and we want to. That's the highest thing we have. That's we say. So we first talk about friendship and all that, the emotional things, and then when we finish that, we can we meet each other on the painting again. But then we don't. Sometimes we don't even talk about the painting. It just happens. We just we paint and like in the early days we drank beer, but now we stop drinking while we paint because it's not good.
No, while we paint, we don't drink while we paint. Never. Oh.
And then we just would actually paint and talk about I don't know. We listen to music and paint and let everything out and really meet with brush strokes, but rarely really talk about what happens on the piece itself. That happens only in the last bit of the painting, because it's a very fast process. So we're really like in a trance painting, and then we find both of us getting slower and slower. So we find like the acceleration is going down, and then one of us would say, let's take a step back, maybe it's time, and then we would discuss again for more details, or we discuss the painting and maybe the story happened in there, and what figures we like, what does the painting want to tell us, and then we have a discourse about the painting.
So that's really interesting. So you have a kind of period of time where you kind of catch up. You might get together, have a couple of beers, catch up, get sort of acquaintance, sort of catching up stuff out of the way. But then when you start painting, you seem to have another kind of language that you use, a kind of non-verbal language, but you need to have that kind of catching up first before, just to sort of
always, yeah,
to sort of prepare yourselves.
It is, yeah. It's very important, because otherwise we are in different emotional states. Maybe I don't know. Like we don't know why we need it, but what we need it. So it's really important, because otherwise we would each of us would be too much in his own sphere or something like that, and would forget about the other one. Probably, I don't know. That's all thinking out of the box. But so it's really, to each other invites the other person to his life again, and to become one on a piece or something like that for amount of time.
But the conversation, would it be fair to say the conversation you're having at the canvas is not a kind of is not necessarily a verbal conversation. It is, or not even spoken in German language, but it's a conversation that is another kind of communication between you. Could you expand a little bit more on what that might be and how you describe it?
I mean, I mean, a lot of painters say that painting is a different language, and like I don't know. I think Richter said if you could explain a painting, you shouldn't or you don't have to paint it. That's a really important point for us. That if we could talk about it, we discovered the painting as a different language, and where that's why we kept going. Because it's not the variety, the
variety.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
In you have so much more than only words. Words are like, if you write words, they are black and white, but we have color.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah.
We talk to each other, but not about the painting. We talk about, I don't know, how amazing this is right now, or whatever. Just tell us jokes, or it's really like it's just like a normal normal talk between friends, for like that. In like what you would be on a building site and I don't know, build a house or something, and then everybody has his thing to do, but you still talk a little bit sometimes, and I don't know, how you doing, how's the weather, I don't know, like small talk.
How's the weather? It's a quite often asked question.
But it's not really like nobody would tell the other one why do you take this color, or maybe you should do this or that, because that's a no-go. Because otherwise we would, like, the level would change. So that's the most important stuff for us, to stay level. Because it happened earlier when we painted together. That's why we split up for a small amount of time, because we always were fighting to get on top of each other, and because nobody of us really painted his own style at that time. We all painted together, and that was our credo, and that's why and that was very natural, because everybody of us wanted to show what he can and what he learned during the painting and stuff, and that sometimes it really like switched sides, and then with the split up, everybody did his own stuff, and then we met again, so to really don't have that theme again, I think. Is that right?
So is that it's a kind of an emerging language for you? There's something that is learned in the process through your work, for both of you.
Process is in this point really important, that we don't try to get on a certain level, but understand the process as a learning process. We learn from this. The thing learns from us, and we learn from each other, and so we don't try to get on an exact point like over there, but to learn in the way on creating.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like there's quite a complex system somehow.
Yeah, we don't understand it at all.
You don't want to understand it.
Maybe it's. I think we. Yeah. I think we want to understand it, but we rather paint actually and try to understand it while painting, but not not in a process of words, or in a process of thinking it through, because that would be unnatural to us both. We are both very emotional people, so and not very systematic. I don't know.
And you're happy for other people to try and understand the system.
Exactly, yeah.
From your paintings.
Because we want to share the experience, which is a very pleasing one, because it's really it really frees you from a lot of things that got put into you from starting from in the kindergarten, how you have to paint a tree or whatever, and which makes a lot of people think of themselves, I cannot paint, or whatever I do creatively, I'm not good at it. But we think every person in the world is creative. Like some people are more creative in mathematics, of course, but even they have like some kind of style in their drawings, and we try to lose them from what they get taught in school, to just do it, and forget what the others say. It's just and it would turn out fine in the end if you just do it and do it.
Yeah, and it's really and that's, for us, it's really interesting to see how the people first, when they see the painting space, and they see, they say, it's really nice, but I don't want to try it. I can't paint. It's not my thing. I'm just here to watch. But then we like invite them and say, hey, you don't have to paint alone. And then, I don't have to paint alone. That's interesting. And they can, and then there's a little, I don't know, a little erkenntnis.
Familiarity.
Yeah. And when they understand that they can trust in the process and the working together, and they don't have to be take the responsibility alone, they really free up, and it's a really joyful event, other than only standing there and watching a painting and say, that's I don't know, maybe a flower, or what is this. They act and get in the process, and there the process is very important for the thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really interesting. I mean, do you think there's a kind of a learning, as an experience that people would take away?
We hope.
From
We
it.
really hope. Yeah.
I think from in the last exhibition we did, we were in the evening. We were standing at the bar there, and one guy came to us, and he was telling us, in this exhibition, you made the most people happy, and that was the most nice words anybody could tell us, because it was like, wow, that's exactly what we wanted to do. That the people take that home and maybe do it even with their children or whatever, and do it at their garden party. they can do it wherever. But to just lose this fear of art, it's still a very elitaire. What's that in English?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Elitist.
Yeah.
That's what Google says. I don't know. Maybe it's a very bad.
Egalitaire. No, what's the word?
It's elitaire.
Elitaire. Elitist. Yes.
Elitist. Yeah. Elitist. A thing that, or a lot of people still think it's elitist, but it's actually not. Because, like, whenever we talk to friends of that are around us, and we tell them, "Hey, come to our vernissage or something," and they like, "Oh, I've never been to a vernissage. Is that how do I dress, or what do I like? What is that? Is that like in their heads? It's always like something. They're only people with big hats and glasses, and it's very, very nothing that anybody could go to. And we want to change that somehow, because art is for everybody, and that's the good thing. Yeah,
it's excellent. So, how does the gallery play a part in that? Do you think in that sort of the kind of finissage environment? Is the gallery has a role to play, or do you try to find alternatives to that, or?
Well, we're still looking for a gallery that is open for our thoughts, but it's also very.
No, you mean the room as a gallery?
I mean,
the white room. Yeah.
Yes, the kind of symbolism and meaning of a gallery is if that plays a role, and whether you're looking for alternatives to that somehow, or whether you've thought about.
Yeah, it's a really important rule, because if we took the project and go in the, I don't know, park or stuff, it would be a fun project, but it would be a project for, I don't know, children or stuff. I think you need this. You have to go in this elitaire room to break it out of this role. Yeah, so it's a really important. It's a really important. The place is important. Yeah, where we do it. Because
so your work is kind of pushing at the edges of what that means, what the gallery symbolizes and manifests. You're trying to break that and agitate it a little bit with your
we try to play with it. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, I am recording this conversation because there's obviously material we can use for the sort of the interview / conversation that I can try and develop a transcript from. And if I have no idea where it's recorded to, but it's recording. I don't know. But anyway, did you also record it, Daniel?
I also recorded, yes.
Okay, so maybe between us we have a recording of this conversation.
Exactly, and also like upload it somewhere. And then
okay, because then maybe I'll have a look at what we've got here, and then maybe we could meet again, or maybe I have a lot of material already, but we'll see.
And how about you? We only talked about us. We're also very interested in
it might things.
If you want
I think Gavin approached me because I do a lot of work. I work as a video artist, and I work with telecommunication arts. So I did a lot of internet. I was actually in Germany for quite some time. I was at ZKM in Karlsruhe for a while. I had a residency there, and I did a lot of work with video conferencing and performance, and I bring people together into a shared space where they coexist on the same screen, and people can then touch each other and interact with each other, and suddenly find themselves in very intimate situations with somebody else. So I've done projections on bed surfaces of people in different countries together, and different things, and in room installations on sofas where people suddenly sit and they're sitting next to somebody on screen, and they just start to play, and they start to just touch and communicate in a very intuitive, performative way. That they're not really aware what they're somehow, they lose their inhibition. They suddenly become performers because they're looking at themselves like a performer, like an avatar, like a kind of video, an external persona of themselves, and they intuitively play in very intimate ways, and they learn a lot from it. And yeah, so I do a lot of these installations like this. So and that's what I was doing that in Karlsruhe, and then in Leipzig, and I was teaching in Leipzig. I lived in Berlin for a little while. So I've been some time in Germany. My German is a little rusty, I'm afraid. I do understand a lot more than I can speak. But anyway, yeah. So I've been doing. Also did some Skype work with drawings, with projections of people's drawings on other people's drawings, like a kind of whiteboard almost. But it was a kind of projection on a projection of a painting on a painting, and people could paint together on the same. So but the actual finished work was a kind of video, really. It was a kind of time lapse video, if you where people collaborating on the same drawing, which is interesting. It worked, but I'm more interested in the performance and the kind of video installation work. Yeah. It's very similar, you see, and I think there's a lot of synergy with what you are doing, and which is why I'm very interested in the role of the viewer or the performer. You're almost like performers, I think, in some ways. It's sort of a kind of, there's a record of a kind of dialogue that's taken place, and there's layers of a story, of a conversation that is almost subconscious, almost like it's not a conscious story, but it's created through other kinds of interactions with each other.
Very, very shy performers we are.
It is difficult, and you'd be surprised how people do interact nevertheless, even if they're feeling a little sort of shy, and they don't. I'm also not great at doing this, but I have done a lot in the past of performing work. So I think we're coming up to sort of 5-ish. So we've been chatting about an hour. I could maybe have another conversation with you. We could talk a little bit more about your most recent work, with the Skype work.
Yeah. Totally.
Do you think we could maybe not now, but I'll have a look at what I've got, and maybe we could find another half an hour sometime in a week or within the week and catch up again. And would nice to talk to you about some of these other works you've been doing with the Skype.
Yeah. Totally. We are very happy to do that. Which would be, should we now make a?
Yeah. Why don't we do that now? Let's have a look at my diary. I'm pretty good next week. I could do it next a week today, next Thursday.
No, I can't.
Okay.
Till the end of the beginning of the week, next week would be great for me.
Okay.
Till
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what I have on Monday. It looks like I've got something in my diary, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what that's happening. Maybe would the Tuesday be okay for you?
I think Tuesday would be.
Would that work for you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, so what sort of time would be good for you to do that? I'm free anytime on Tuesday, 22nd.
Me too, actually.
22nd. Yeah. Second. I'm also free.
How about same time? Same time, 3 o'clock?
Yes, of course, we can do that.
Perfect. Okay, and I will try and I'm gonna stop this video now.
Yeah.
Stop recording. I'm gonna see where it